Hello, everybody, and welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. You already know who I am. I'm joined with Dan once again. Great to have you back on, mate.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Hopefully, we'll talk about some targets and clear up some of the rumour mills that have been going about. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, we all listened with intent ears at X's podcast because he's been gone for a while. The rumour mill's been going in overdrive, and we really wanted to find out what were the legit rumours. But me and Dan were just going to sit down, talk about them, sort of have our little opinion on it, and really analyse them because some of them are slightly disappointing and underwhelming. Others might be a good signing. So yeah, we'll cover that in this video. So. Yeah, mate. Let's go through the defenders, shall we? Malang.
Yeah, come on, Malang Sarr. Yeah, he's a top player. There's no doubt about that. The thing is, when we signed Issa Diop, he reminds me of someone of that potential, that kind of caliber, where he's young, he's really impressed, despite not being in that great of a team. I know. Obviously, Diop was at Toulouse and he saved them from relegation. He was captain, but Sarr can also play left back, can't he? So he's got that versatility, which I think we lack. If you look at teams, they always have two players for one position, and we don't really seem to have that. We're too attack heavy. So no, he's certainly a player that is attractive, but whether he has better offers, I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I've heard a lot about him. A lot of top European clubs are after him. I definitely think this is a little bit of a left field transfer target for David Moyes. You touched on it a little bit in terms of his versatility, ability to play at left back and centre back. I think would be perfect for us, if I'm honest. I think we're going to have a long season. We know David Moyes likes to keep relatively the same side. I think someone that can slot in both positions is going to be really helpful. I think potentially a good partnership with someone like Issa Diop, both being French, both in that French league. You've got real potential there to grow and develop. And I think one element of Issa Diop's game is that confidence side of it. I think with a stable, centre-back pairing and someone that he trusts at left-back, he's going to be able to progress. And I actually think, with Creswell and Masuaku, it's really hard for him to grow and develop into his full potential. It's such a shame because he had a fantastic first season at West Ham.
He did, yeah. You saw his game against Spurs away when we won 1-0. He ran the length of the pitch and almost scored. His
Harry
finishing
Kane tackle
calm
as
at the
well.
end.
Yeah.
Yeah, mate. There's no doubt. We spoke about in the last video about the fullbacks and the ineptitude, and that it's making almost Diop in a way regress and not show his full potential. But I'd definitely have him next to Diop. The only thing I'd worry about if he was with Ogbonna is that they're both left-sided, and Ogbonna is comfortable with his right foot in a way, but Malang Sarr is very one-footed. So, if Masuaku goes, maybe you can look to bring in Malang Sarr, then bench Cresswell, or there's plenty of options there, mate. But I think we're dreaming too much with this one because I don't know if too good is the phrase, or if he has better offers on the table. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, it is a tough one. I mean, that left back position is it's been such a problem for us for a long time now. And obviously in my last video, I talked about the lack of investment in fullbacks in general. I mean, the only positive I can think of with someone like Malang Sarr, I don't know about his wages, but in terms of him potentially being a free transfer, he fits in with our policy of paying very, very little for any fullback, and slotted in. I don't know whether it's a step too far for us. I mean, great point you touched on with, taking Ogbonna away from that left-hand side. I think Ogbonna does really well on his left. He isn't the best ball-playing centre-back, so he does benefit from being comfortable there. I don't know, mate. It's too far a reach for me, in my opinion, with Malang Sarr.
Yeah, he's like you said. I don't think his wages would be that astronomical because he's only 21. He won't be on that much at Rennes, I'm sure, because their wages will be significantly lower than Premier League teams. But the thing is, I don't think he'd suit our style either, mate. I think he'd suit more of an Arsenal. He's quite a ball-playing centre-back. I've looked at his radar this season, and the progressive passes he's made has been right up there with the best in the league. So whether he'd suit being under pressure, because teams like to high press against West Ham and try and dictate possession of the ball, I'm not so sure. And maybe fans would climb on his back because he's always giving the ball away or making mistakes, similarly to Diop and Ogbonna occasionally. So, mate, Sarr's a great player, and you'll see that somewhere else. But for me, I'd be sceptical about not him personally, but the way he fits into the team.
Yeah, we'll touch on the other sort of transfer targets that I wouldn't say are necessarily as talented, but definitely fit within the system that we're going to play. In terms of another ball-playing centre-back, Mr. John Stones, he is a target. He's been confirmed now as a target. There was a lot of rumours out there, given obviously his link with David Moyes and Everton, but he is a confirmed transfer target. He is one of our main priorities. I mean, just first and foremost, how do you see him fitting into a West Ham side?
I think he'd fit in at the back, wouldn't he, with a Bonner left side and Stones on the right side. Obviously there's the link and connection with Moyes, who brought him up at Everton, gave him his chance. There's no doubt, he'd done well at Everton. City is one of them. Guardiola always seems to get, players right with his signings, like that Ferran Torres he signed recently. He always sees potential. I don't know if Stones is just, the pressure's got to him too much. But if he came, a step down to West Ham in a way, I think he'd do well. I think, he certainly got that ball-playing ability that you touched on. Defensively, though, I always think to myself, is he better than what we have? Is he better than Ogbonna defensively? Is he better than Diop? I know John Stones is a big name and he's been there at the top. He's played in big competitions, of course, but he's not played consecutive games for a while now at Man City. So I do wonder, the same with Malang Sarr. Would he fit our style? But then again, he can see passes like Maguire can. He can switch play really easy. Say if Anderson was on the left or Dean Garner, he could find them no problem, which I think Diop, can lack on the ball. So that would definitely be an upgrade. Definitely, with Moyes' style as well.
Yeah, I definitely think that'll add to the game. I think one thing I was just thinking about then was, Moyes likes to play with Thomas Souček and Declan Rice just sitting in front of that back four. I wonder whether that would give a little bit more protection to a West Ham side with John Stones in it. We know his distribution is top drawer. He likes to come out from the back. His passing is very, very good. He has been touted potentially as a holding defensive midfield player. If he did join West Ham, that could happen if there were certain injuries that struck. For me, I think there are two elements to this. One, I'm not too keen on a ball playing centre back. We've seen with Balbuena, this season he's made a number of mistakes. I don't think in a back four that isn't routinely structured and playing in a possession based side that's going to help John Stones grow. Even John Stones in a side that suits his attributes, he's struggling. We have made these types of signs before. Potentially not the same, but even in goal with Joe Hart, we thought we were getting an England international player with good pedigree, and he struggled with that drop down. It's interesting. I would like West Ham not to necessarily go for a player that's on the come down. I think we have to look at someone who is in and around our position, or someone who's looking to grow. And John Stones, for the wages that will be on, I'm not massively convinced.
No, he'll be on. What would we say? He'd be on about 85k a week, I imagine, at Man City. And like you said, it's the same with Joe Hart. It's almost they struggle too much and can't cope with the demands of coming down to a step down like West Ham from Man City and wanting to impress every week. Whereas with Man City, maybe they got away with it some weeks because they won 4-0. And, but always every week with West Ham, it's always pressure on the defence no matter what, because City will have games, say, against, Bournemouth or something where they'll just cruise to victory and they won't even have to defend much. So I am sceptical about Stones and whether he would handle it. And like you said, is he better than what we have currently in defensive options? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not convinced either. I think there's something that's banded around social media a lot that why are West Ham fans not interested in a player of John Stones' calibre? And I do get it. I do understand the association with a club like Manchester City and playing for England. But we have to appreciate in this situation is we're looking at players that can fit our system. Particularly in recent years, we've got to be realistic about where we are as a club. How David Moyes wants to play. To be honest, I don't think Stones would do too badly, but when I look at some of our other areas, the fullbacks in particular, potentially an extra striker, I just don't see it as a massive priority. I do think squad depth does need to be added there. I think Moyes has to go out and either recruit a free transfer or a loan deal. But when we're looking at John Stones, the wages that he would be on, even if it was a loan deal, for me, it's not worth it. And it's just too much of a risk. And we've got to be realistic with ourselves as West Ham fans. Next season, if someone like Declan leaves at the end of the window, we will struggle. And I wouldn't back someone like John Stones to get us out of a relegation battle.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think I did a poll on Twitter and 81% said Stones would be a good signing for West Ham. And I know, of course, he's a big name, but I think fans hang on to that too much. The fact that, oh yeah, he's John Stones, he's played for Man City. Of course, 5 years ago, I would have snatched your hand off and said, yeah, Stones will be a great addition because he's progressing. But now I don't see that. I think he's more, he's staying where he is in terms of progression. We want to steer clear of that and look at targets like you mentioned, that we'll mention in the video, that are progressing and want to keep progressing at higher levels. And I just don't see that with Stones, and he's not a signing that really convinces me that he can step in, do well immediately. Because I'd rather see players with potential and ability that are exciting, and players like that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. Like, the jury's out on Stones for me. It'll be interesting to see what Moyes does. I think you could see West Ham panicking near the end of the window. And I wouldn't be surprised if John Stones was definitely not going to get football at Manchester City and West Ham were interested in him, that we would make that move eventually. So we'll keep our eyes on that. Obviously.
You could put a loan offer in, couldn't you? If he struggles to move there, and you look at a summer transfer window opening, you could tempt them with a loan. Split the wages, but for me, it's just a no-go, and we should pursue younger targets.
So not necessarily younger targets or even really better targets, but maybe targets that suit us a little bit more in terms of the system we play. Let's touch on Duffy for Brighton now. Yep. Duffy's been a player that I think West Ham and West Brom have been interested in. For me, he's not getting a game at Brighton, so obviously the incentive's there for him to join West Ham. I think Brighton is what Duffy even is more a realistic target, and I think he'd be a stronger player for us. I do think he'd give our backline a bit of solidity. I think he's an aerial threat. And we'll touch on Craig Dawson later. Very, very similar in that aspect. I think West Ham will look to get goals from set pieces, and Duffy will be important to that.
Yeah, completely. Duffy, as we touched on before this, he's like a Ginger Pele too, isn't he? James Collins. He's one of them. He'll give you absolutely everything week in, week out. He'll do the dirty work. He'll do everything, and that's I completely agree with you. He's one that excites me more, and I think would fit into the team better than someone like John Stones would. Completely, I'm all for it. I know he's not getting the game time at Brighton because of Dunk and whatever, but no, he's on the right side of age. I think he can add a lot to West Ham, and obviously there's that Moyes connection as well, which could be a telling factor in any deal. But no, yeah, like you said, West Brom and Celtic are after him, so it'll be interesting to see the developments over the next few weeks. But he's defo someone that I like as a player, and personality as well. Could be a big player in the dressing room. So completely, I back that 100%. But whether it'll happen or not, we'll have to see.
Yeah, I think the thing is with someone like Shane Duffy is, I think he would move on a permanent transfer. I think that's important for West Ham in terms of buying players that are there for the next 2 or 3 years. I think the transfer fee is going to be significantly less than potentially some of these other targets. So there is that element that he would fit in with West Ham's very strange scattergun transfer strategy.
Yeah.
But I have to agree with you. I do think he fits in that West Ham side. Very similar to James Collins in that he's very defensive. No nonsense defender. I think we will need that next season in any capacity. I can't foresee someone like Ogbonna or Diop obviously going out the door, but I think Balbuena could leave, and I think Duffy would be someone who would be great in rotation. I think against slightly bigger teams, if West Ham wanted to play 3 at the back and play wing backs, he has played in the back 3, albeit only a few times for Brighton. He can do that role. I think people look down on people like Shane Duffy because he's from Brighton, because he isn't an exciting signing. But, if West Ham were going out and signing decent fullbacks, a striker, I don't think we would turn our nose up at someone like Shane Duffy, to be honest.
No, completely not. And at the end of the day, we need to come into reality in terms of where we are and, what position we've been in this season. We've been at the bottom end of the table. And, I think the differences between, Duffy, Stones, and Malang Sarr is that Duffy has the personality. Duffy has the personality to, if he's not had a good game or not had a good 20 minutes, he'll pick himself up. Whether I don't see that with Stones or Sarr, maybe the pressure would get to them a little bit, but Duffy is one that would be a big leader and, would hope the likes of Mark Noble and Declan Rice to, pick the team up if we're not playing well or something like that. So I think he could be a really good signing for, I think, what was it quoted, £10 million or something, which would be a great bit of business for West Ham. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, 100%. Modern day transfer fee, £10 million is probably quite
It's
conservative.
peanuts, isn't it? Yeah.
It's possible. I mean, listen, we'll see. West Ham is still an attractive club. We are more attractive than someone like a West Brom. I think the player would go, but again, we've got to wait and see with this West Ham transfer strategy. It's very much, let's see who we sell before we buy. But in terms of me, I think he gets the green light. I would bring him into the club. I think West Ham's centre-back's position, I think we should have at least 4, to be honest. I don't think we should be relying on just the 3 and maybe Cardozo to come in case there's an injury. So definitely me for Shane Duffy. Craig Dawson fits a very, very similar mould. Obviously, recently relegated with Watford and West Brom. So he's used to it. So hopefully it won't be, the third time that he's relegated with the club next season.
Yeah, that's where the alarm bells come in, isn't it? The fact that he's been relegated twice. To be fair, whenever I've looked at him or, watched Watford play this season, he's been one of the better players. I know you can say, he's been poor because he's been in a relegated team, but some players actually, stand out like Sarr did, and Will Hughes and players like that. But yeah, I'm not so sure. It's my only doubts are that he's been relegated twice, and you can't keep a club up on your own, of course not. But I would rather favour Shane Duffy, being honest with you.
Yeah, I think someone like Craig Dawson, yes, he's been in 2 very poor sides. An important thing maybe to remember with someone like him is he has played well in West Brom, obviously before they got relegated. He was a mainstay. West Brom were a very solid club defensively. I think he offers something at West Ham. My biggest concern would be, I think he's getting very close to 30. So in terms of a transfer fee, I think Watford would look to keep him. He was a good performer for them last season, albeit they were relegated. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go paying the same money we're paying for Duffy, certainly. £10 million for Craig Dawson is very, very, very steep. I think the player would have to force a move, if I'm honest, because I can't see Watford selling him. I think Watford next season, sort of speaking off topic, will try and retain a lot of their players. Obviously, they just signed Ngakia. I think Dawson will be part of that. But for me, the wrong type of player, similar to Duffy, can offer the very similar attributes, but I just think that age thing it's off-putting, and the player hasn't really agitated for a move either, which would suggest that someone like Watford will charge more.
Yeah, he'll be happy there, won't he? He'll be on decent-ish wages. And then you coach. I know he's renowned for playing aggressive football, and Dawson fits that mould, if you like. He'll partner, Ngakia, won't he, next season? So that could be another factor that makes them, bounce back straight away. Maybe they'll want to keep hold of the, Deeney's and Sarrs and Dawson's for sure. But I do like the fact that we've shortlisted experienced players who have, not necessarily done it in the Premier League, but have been there and been battling. And, Dawson does fit the bill of a battling centre-back who, does the dirty work, and Diop, can sometimes let us down with his mistakes, like Balbuena has done as well. So if you're looking at, Ginger Pele Mark II, Dawson and Duffy fit the bill. But, I'm sure me and you agree that, if we had to choose one, it'd be Duffy. So
100%. But I don't think anything can be quite as bad as this next transfer target. I really don't rate him. I've got to be honest, I really don't rate him. Phil Jones from Manchester United. There is a link obviously there because, he played under Moyes in his brief spell at Manchester United. For me, Phil Jones has flattered to deceive really since he moved to United. I think he's done a decent job early doors with Fergie, but has never pushed on. Very, lack of composure at the back. I think, yes, he's aggressive. He's physical. He will offer that. But we've got to remember his wages are going to be quite high. He's still got a decent deal at United. I think we should just swerve this one, mate. I'm surprised he's even in the top targets, if I'm honest.
Honestly, mate, it'd be bottom of the list, bottom of the pecking order. it goes to show when his best highlight reel is probably his facial expressions on when he's been tackling or something like that.
Yeah.
To be honest, I've never really seen him play consecutive games. I know he was impressive at Blackburn when he was first coming into football, but I just completely agree with you. Short and sweet. He's a simple no for West Ham, and he would be a typical West Ham signing at the end of the window if we need to panic and get someone in that we would look at him. But if we want to progress, mate, and steer clear of relegation troubles, we should definitely avoid Phil Jones.
Yeah, 100%. Like, maybe there's a player there. I don't think Fergie would have spent that money on him if he didn't think that he was a decent player. But the same with Jones, mate. It's too risky for West Ham at this stage. We need players that we know are going to perform, fitting within a system. We have to prioritise that. If not a lot of money spent in this window, I want players in that can play for West Ham to their best ability. I don't want someone like a Jones who maybe takes 10, 15 games to try and find some form. I think, and you bring him in even, you're disrupting that partnership between Ogbonna and Diop, which I think both of them need. And I think give them the reins and let them start in most of the games. And I think West Ham potentially will do okay next season, but we'll obviously cover the fullbacks because that's going to be a different ball game as well.
Yeah, of course. No, and to be fair, Diop and Ogbonna, at the end of the season when we had that good patch of form, they actually solidified their partnership and looked to understand each other a bit more. And like you said, Jones would disrupt that. And Jones, for me, if he came in, he'd be the most error prone out of all of our centre backs, more error prone than Balbuena, because he's always got an error in him. And I know, yes, he would have been a player. Fergie liked to. Fergie, he know his stuff about his players, didn't he? He's one of the best managers to ever grace football, and I know he had the likes of Anderson in midfield and Butner at left back and Makeda. He did make some mistakes, and Jones is one of them. But there must be something about him if United, scouted him and then thought he'd fit the bill. But no, I just think he's over the hill, mate. He's not someone for me that would excite me coming into West Ham, and I don't think he'd fit the system either. So.
Yeah, solid no from us on that one.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, well, we'll cover it because X mentioned it. I'm just still shocked it's a top target, to be honest, mate. But we'll skirt over.
Get him off for this, mate. Get him off.
Yeah, let's go and chuck him off. Right back. I mean, I don't want to depress anyone any further, but wait till you hear the right back options here. I'm going to start with Fosu Mensah from Manchester United. Common theme here, mate. It seems a couple of United players, maybe Moyes is familiar with him. I think it all has to be said when we played them at Old Trafford and he was hauled off at half-time. I think that's your answer there and then.
Yeah, exactly. I think just because Moyes was at United for a brief few months, wasn't he? That's why, these targets are coming up. But I don't even think when Moyes was at United, Fosu Mensah was even given a run-in. Honestly, I don't. I think... Did he go on loan at Palace or something a few seasons ago, Fosu Mensah? He definitely went somewhere on loan.
Yeah, no, he went Palace. I don't think he impressed, though, and obviously he hasn't pushed on to come back.
Oh, he didn't impress, and he's another one that, he's young, of course, and he needs regular football to kind of establish himself in this league, but I don't know if he's good enough for the Premier League. Honestly don't, because if he was, he'd be, not in the United team, but he'd be doing it somewhere else. So that's another one where it's, it's a panic kind of option at the end of the window. If we're not signed anyone, is he an upgrade on Fredericks? I wouldn't even think he is, because he's similar to Fredericks in the fact that he offers something going forward, but defensively he's shaky, and if we are looking at right backs, we need to upgrade on Fredericks, and I don't think Fosu Mensah is at all.
No, 100%, and I haven't even mentioned Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson gets in over Fosu Mensah.
Any day.
Pocketed Rashford when we went up to Old Trafford, clearly did better than him. So an odd choice as a transfer target. I've got to admit, I think one commonality between all these targets is I can't quite see how West Ham have pieced them together or understood why, they need to come in. It seems like a lot of it's Moyes' opinion. I think that's dangerous as a football club anyway, just to have one man's opinion.
Completely.
But for me, Fosu Mensah hasn't really impressed. He hasn't kicked on. He didn't show me anything that he's going to improve in the Premier League. I don't think West Ham at a club where we're at now for him to have a run of games either. I'd actually feel sorry for the guy if he comes into West Ham and, if we have a really tough few fixtures early next season and he struggles. I don't think he's got the right mentality to improve. And listen, I'm not advocating us to go and buy people just for the sake of it. You know, wages are wages. If we bring someone in, I want him to be a good squad member, not just a last minute transfer.
Of course, yeah. On the flip side, though, you know, with Fosu Mensah, he's behind Wan-Bissaka, and he's one of the best right backs in the league.
Yeah.
You know, Fosu Mensah, he does need a run of games, because I know people jump to conclusions too quickly. If he had a few bad games, people are like, that's him. You know, that's him gone. Then he's not good enough for any club in the Premier League. But I guess, you know, you never really know until he plays a few games. He gets a few games under his belt. But like you said, if he comes to West Ham, you know, big pressure, big fan base, and he just he struggles and he gets terrorised one game, that'll be him on the back burner, if you like, and everyone will forget his name quickly. So I think that's one we should avoid. And, you know, I'm sure he'll move on somewhere to like the Championship. But for me, the Premier League, if he was that good and if he was up to it, he would have had the chance by now.
100%, mate. So we'll move on to the next one. Nathaniel Klein. Now, a few of you will remember that he was actually quite a decent player when he played for Southampton and initially for Liverpool. Obviously, since then, West Ham seem to have not realised that he's tailed off in form. He's had a spell at Bournemouth where he didn't really impress. I think he was injury prone there as well. We are looking at a typical West Ham signing here. You know, a player who was quite good, would fit the bill, you know, if he was in his prime. But ultimately, I feel like he's a little bit over the hill. I actually think with this one as well, we're looking at a Stone situation where the wages will be high. Again, you know, do we want to spend that amount of money on a player that could be out for most of the season? We've had problems with Wilshere, and I don't think we should try and replicate that, particularly with Nathaniel Klein.
He's one of them. He's been regurgitated the last few summers, hasn't he, as a target, or, you know, but he's actually, I wonder when the last time he's played 90 minutes consecutively for like 2 or 3 games. I think you're talking 2 years, 3 years, the fact that he's done that. You know, I know he had a spell at Bournemouth, he looked okay. But, you know, he had injuries there, didn't he? And that ruled him out for the rest of the season, or vice versa. I'm not too sure. But no, he's another one that we need to steer clear of, in the fact that his wages will be what, about, you're looking at 50k upwards in terms of Liverpool. And then, he's going on 29, 30 as well. So that's the tail end of his career. And you just got to think, you know, you'd rather look at someone younger like Matty Cash, or, you know, I know Klein, like you said, he was a decent player with Southampton. You know, they had a lot of good players coming up through the system there, but, you know, now he's just, he's too injury prone for me.
Yeah, and it's not just that, mate. You know, he's an attacking right back, and we've seen with Fredericks, you know, players that tend to be good going forward, don't really impress defensively. You know, there are very few players that can do both. I think, you know, the only real key example I can think of in world football with a few is Alfonso Davies. You know, we saw him for Bayern Munich, unbelievable player going forward. And listen, we'd never get a player like that at West Ham. But
no.
I particularly think with the Moyes system, you know, let's focus on having real good, solid defensive players, because we've got an attacking array of talent. It's about giving them the license to go forward. And, you know, it's just an odd signing. You know, even with the Fosu Mensahs and the Nathaniel Kleins, they're not right for West Ham. They're names, they play at big clubs, but they're not the right fit. You know,
the names to kind of sell season tickets, aren't they, and get you excited. But at the end of the day, they're not. They don't strike me as players that actually help to improve the side, and, you know, to help us progress in the Premier League. I just can't see it, mate. But I completely agree with you in the fact that Klein and Fosu Mensah just don't feel right at West Ham, you know, even before they've signed. And you need that feeling. You need to think, okay, you know, this is a good sign, they might do well. But Klein, you know, he's regressing now. It's a shame, because he was a player at Southampton, but his injuries have cursed him. He'll never be the same player. And he's one we need to steer clear of.
Fantastic. So no right backs coming in at the moment, unfortunately.
No, we'll stick with Hendricks.
Yeah, so we'll go with left backs, because actually, surprisingly, it's not that negative. Danny Rose for Tottenham. I don't think West Ham's history in dealing with Tottenham will allow this to happen, but
no.
I don't think he's a bad player. I still think he's got something to offer, not necessarily in his prime as he was a few seasons ago. I'd welcome him. He's an improvement on Creswell and Masuaku, certainly. Yeah. But again, mate, we're looking at this high wage thing, and I wonder whether West Ham can afford to have him in.
That's the constant theme, mate, isn't it? The high wages, and, you know, we need to. we need to get a few players off the books. Never mind, keep bringing players on higher wages. That just doesn't help the situation. I've always liked him. I've always liked Danny Rose. I think he did a steady job when Willems got injured for Newcastle last season. He had to come in. I thought he did a decent job. He had a good few games. Is he on the tail end of his career? You've got to look at that. He's 29, 30. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I have always liked him though, and that is a signing that I could see, that I would like to see, but I don't think will happen.
Do you know what I like about him actually is I think his experience would be good for West Ham. I think, he's played at, he's played in the Champions League for Tottenham. He's played at the upper end of the table. He's used to dealing with very quick players. And I think someone like Rose, who's technically quite good defensively, I mean, he's obviously better going forward when he's had the pace. But, with an experienced player like that, he's used to dealing with fast players down that side. I think West Ham's biggest issue over the past few seasons is playing against teams, and we saw against Manchester City opening day of last season. We just tend to get ripped apart down that side by right wingers. We need someone who, okay, maybe he's not the quickest now, maybe he's lost a little bit, but he's got the, tricks of the trade, knows how to deal with them. And I think that benefits even people like, Diop, young player in the side, needs to improve. And he's got that experience with him. And I think as a back four, they need to grow together. And I think he would be a positive signing. I really do.
He would help the likes of Diop massively in terms of being a leader. I could imagine Rose would be a leader on the training ground in terms of if Diop does something wrong, he'd point that out to Diop. Whereas I don't think Ogbonna would do that all the time with Diop. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure they work in cohesion together. But Rose is someone, I think he strikes the perfect balance to me with he's lost his pace, but he's still solid going forward, and defensively he's good as well. Whereas Cresswell, he's too one-dimensional, and so is Fredericks. And Rose, like you said, he adds that composure, he adds that experience. He's done it in the Premier League, he's done it at higher levels as well, Champions League. And I do think, on a cheap, if we can get his wages down a bit maybe, or, he'd be interested because he's a Leeds boy himself. So I'm sure he wouldn't mind. But whether we deal with Tottenham and Daniel Levy, which will be the interesting one.
Yeah, mate, it's one of the... I can't see that happening. West Ham have got a real negative history with Tottenham. Obviously, they play hardball with a lot of their signings. It'd be up to the player. We've seen with Danny Rose before, he wasn't happy under Mourinho and he forced that move to Newcastle. So it could happen again. That might force their hand.
Yeah,
we'll wait and see. And obviously, I think there's other, attributes of his game. He's English, which is kind of fitting that Moyes. He wants a core of English players, which I think is important. We touched on it a little bit with the Premier League experience, even with Leeds and then moving on to Tottenham. He's got so much experience. It would be a real positive signing. The other two targets, however, don't have any Premier League experience. They are relatively, they would be new to the Premier League. Let's start with Rico Henry. Me and you have touched on him before. Brilliant player. Really, really is. Offers a lot going forward. He's got the ability to get back. What I love about him is he keeps that width of Brentford, and allows someone like Ben Rama to move central. I'd love West Ham to have that kind of play. When we speak about, if Anderson pops up on the left and he wanted to cut in on his right, you're giving him the license to move a little bit more central and affect the game. So I think he actually offers a lot going forward to the other players, which, we haven't had.
No, yeah, I love him. I loved him when he was at Walsall as well before he came through at Brentford. He is my first choice completely. He just, like you said, he just adds that balance, and he'd allow the likes of Anderson or Fornals to flourish because he tends to overlap a lot, Rico Henry. He's got a killer ball on him for Haller as well. And I just think he's solid defensively, and he will suit our style of play as well, actually. If you look at it, the fact that he'll help Diop, he's still young, his wages won't be much, which is a massive thing. And I'm backing it.
Yeah, the only stumbling block might be his transfer fee. I mean, we're talking about £10 million. I've done a video on how much we've spent on fullbacks, both left and right. It's equivalent to £16 million. So we're getting someone that's over half of the amount we spent in a decade, just to put that into context. So
who would have thought it? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Who would have thought West Ham would underspend on the fullbacks? But yeah, I really think he's a good player. I don't know how much research Moyes has done on him. I'm very sceptical of it, but I think from what you've seen of him, from what I've seen of him, perfect for this West Ham team, really is. And he's young and he'll grow and he'll develop. And I think we need that player. And okay, all right, Danny Rose offers experience. Maybe that's what we need now. But, if West Ham want to progress as a club, we need players coming through that are going to push and get better. And Rico Henry shows a lot of signs of potential. I've said in my recent video as well, the modern day fullback is crucial to the way teams play. They're not only just a defensive player now.
Massive, yeah.
You're looking at, you look at Liverpool with Robertson and Trent Alexander-Arnold. They're pivotal to their attacking play. And I think Rico would offer that, which is why I think he would adapt well to the Premier League.
Yeah, look at the way Wolves rectified their fullback issues. They've got Doherty and who else? That Johnny on the left as well. So the same with Sheffield United. Their fullbacks made marauding runs, and I think we lack that. I think obviously Cresswell has pace, but these fullbacks that I'm on about with Wolves and Sheffield United, they can defend as well, and you need that perfect balance now. But like you said, fullbacks, that. Almost the most fundamental position on the team sheet in terms of, giving the likes of the luxury players to, showcase their talents going forward, or protecting the centre-backs, or, they're absolutely massive. And I just think that Rico Henry fits the bill perfectly. And I've wanted him for a few years, to be honest. I'm a massive fan of him. So hopefully, like you said, the transfer fee won't be too much of a stumbling block. We can get him in at West Ham, because I'm sure he'd love the move as well. And he'd be my top target.
Yeah, no, same with me, mate. I think the other target we've got here is Ryan Manning from QPR. You discussed him in the last video. 7 assists. He creates a lot of chances. I get the impression he's very good going forward. I think something that X touched on, and what Moyes is a little bit sceptical about, is defensively he's not as solid as a Rico Henry. My feeling on defensive fullbacks, albeit I know that they're important to the modern game. And, if West Ham were a progressive, expansive team, then of course, he would fit in. But I just don't know whether we need a player like that. I don't want us to get exposed down that wing. I think Cresswell sometimes falls into that category where he does go forward, but he hasn't got the pace to get back. And I'm not saying Manning doesn't, but I don't want teams to pick us off on that side.
Yeah, exactly. That's the department that Manning does remind me of a Cresswell in a way. I'm not sure. Manning, he's got a hell of a cross on him. He's good at set pieces. He's versatile. He can play left midfield. But I understand, what X said, that Moyes has doubts about his defending, because defensively, when you look at his stats this season, they haven't been amazing. I know left backs and full backs don't win every single duel they're presented with, but we need someone who's going to be an upgrade on Cresswell at left back. And I don't know if Manning is. I think he's more of a utility player. He can play centre mid, he can play left mid. He'd be more of a squad player, but he wouldn't be Cresswell's immediate replacement, whereas Rico Henry would be. So
yeah, and I think another issue as well from a negotiation standpoint is Ryan Manning is one of the prized assets of QPR alongside Easy. So they aren't going to let him go for cheap, certainly. I think I've heard with Easy, and we'll touch on him. I think Palace tried to offer around 10 million, but they're holding out for 20. So if a player like that isn't a guaranteed starter, is a bit of a utility player, if we're spending £10 million on him when we could be spending it on a Rico Henry, it just seems like a bit of a waste. And, if West Ham had the Pellegrini budget they had a few seasons ago, and we were looking to build a team, a squad.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it'd be fantastic, mate, but I just don't think we can afford it.
No, and the position we're in right now, we need players that are going to come in and make an immediate impact. And, if you're looking at, say, like you said, if we had the Pellegrini money and we had like £300 million to spend, and we were like Man City, Manning would be a great addition, as a backup. But we need players right now who are going to come in and do a job, and you question Manning's ability to do that. But Rico Henry, I think, could fit in perfectly. So,
yeah, you're right, mate. Rico Henry definitely for me. So that is the defenders covered. A really long, illustrious list of ex-decent players and young players coming through.
We've been harsh on a few, haven't we? But
mate, we've got to be. This is our job, right? We've got to be a little bit on tough on them. I think me and you as West Ham fans, we want to see the right players for the right team, and we understand that certain systems work for certain players, and I'd hate for someone like a Manning to come in and fail, because he has got that potential.
Yeah.
So, a bit disappointing. But midfielders, a much shorter list, but some interesting names on there. Some interesting names. Jeff Hendricks from Burnley. A curveball for me. I thought he was going AC Milan, which I thought was bizarre in itself.
Absolutely strange, yeah.
Yeah, really strange. They've got a really odd policy actually because they went for Anthony Robinson as well. So I mean, I'm not sure their involvement in the English game, but clearly they've got sight of it. I think Hendricks for me, decent passing range. Has got an eye for goal, but isn't obviously consistent with that. Physical, gets about the pitch. Has played in a Sean Dyche system where you have to get about. You have to, that transition from defence to attack is crucial to get supply to Wood or Barnes or Rodriguez. So I actually think would be a positive signing. My concern, as is with a lot of these targets, is the wages. Let's be honest, if Burnley had the money, they would have kept him. So I'm slightly sceptical that what he's asking for is a lot. I don't know your thoughts on him as a player or what you think about that situation.
Similar to you, mate. I think he's got a good passing range. He likes to provide ammunition to Barnes, Wood, Rodriguez, whatever. I think he's similar in a way to Mark Noble. He likes to do the dirty work, do the unnoticed bits, keep it simple in the middle, but he lacks. I think we need more of a ball carrier like Declan Rice showed in the last few games that can take the ball forward in the middle, isn't scared of taking players on and cutting the lines, which Hendricks can do. But I think Josh Brownhill came in, didn't he?
Yeah.
He impressed more. He was more of a Hendricks successor, and I did actually like Hendricks to start with. I thought he was decent. He scored a few goals. He can pop in the right positions. We played them this year, and he featured, didn't he? And he did okay. They overpowered us in the midfield like they normally do with most teams. But 175 midfield pressures this season, which wasn't great for them. It was actually, I think it was that 8th or 9th on the list in terms of midfielders. So, that's something we've got to look at if they, fit the bill like we've said this video. So he's 28 as well, and you've got to look at that and think, you just got to think of the age and factor in the wages as well, and think, do they represent value?
Yeah, I thought when I was thinking about this, because it was an interesting name and it did sort of jump off the page for me. But West Ham are going to play that three midfield. Souček and Rice are going to sit. Albeit sometimes Rice will go forward, Souček will sit. The number 10 position at the moment is a real contentious one for West Ham. We've got some really good technical players that could play there. You've got some of them falling off, but Lanzini, Anderson, Fornals would probably be my choice given his work rate. But yeah. Mark Noble has played there since Project Restart. Does it show that Moyes doesn't necessarily value creative players in the number 10? The conventional number 10 isn't what it is in a Moyes system. So, albeit Jeff Hendricks isn't a creative player, could he play that role?
Completely could. You've got to look at players like Declan Rice. He almost played that role, didn't he? For the Watford goal, he almost acted as a number 10 in and around the box. Whereas normally before Souček's arrival, he was one of our last players on the pitch. So, the thing is, I don't see Hendrick fitting the system. I'd rather see someone like Fornals flourish in his main position rather than being exposed out wide, because I don't think Fornals had the greatest of ends to the season in terms of he was played out of position. When we saw for Villarreal, he excelled there. He excelled in his natural position. So I'd rather see Fornals or maybe Anderson given a go there rather than Hendricks come in and Again, it's one of them. It's experience, isn't it? That's why he's on the shortlist. Yeah,
and I just find it hard for him because in a Burnley team, in a 4-4-2, there is obviously license for him to defend and attack. In a 4-3-3 way West Ham play, I can't see him sitting. I don't see him as a sitting player. No. Good passing range, but I'm not sure his defensive abilities, albeit he puts himself about. You look at the 10 role, I don't think he can play that either. So he's an interesting player. I would actually take him if his wages were all right for squad depth. I really would, because I think centre midfield is a real. First and foremost, I think it's an underinvested position. I've covered that as well before. But I think I can't see Wilshere playing much this season, and I don't see where our centre midfielders are coming from. I know Connor Coventry's coming through. I've covered him as well. Good player, would sit deep and sort of play that deep playmaker role. But Hendricks offers Premier League experience. He's 28, so he's in his peak. He's physically very good. If we can get him for the right deal, I would take him.
Yeah, he's a plan B, and you've got to think if touch wood, if Rice or Souček get a bad injury, you know, we do need cover. I know there's talk of Cecchiati coming back, wasn't there, a few months ago?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
swerved that curveball, but yeah, like you said, you know, Conor Coventry maybe needs another season out on loan at like Lincoln City to really see what he's about. Is it harsh putting him in the squad? It probably is at the moment. But you know, like you said, we do need backup for Rice and Souček because 38 games in a season, you know, it's a lot of games and it might catch up on them. So Hendricks, you know, if his wages were okay, you'd take him as backup or a utility player, like you said, completely.
And he definitely fits a very similar role to this next player, John Lundstrom. Now, if you play fantasy football, you know Lord Lundstrom is a phenomenal player. I remember going up to West Mate. I remember going up to West Ham and we just got battered by Newcastle. It was horrible. I think it was 3-2. Roberto masterclass. And I'm on the train home going, I can't believe this is doing wedding. I look at my phone, check my fantasy football, and I go, Lundstrom's got like 22 points off the bench. And luckily, some player got injured in front of him, so come on. So I'm fond of Lundstrom as a fantasy football player.
Yeah.
But as an actual football player, you know, I don't think he's too bad. I think he's quite mobile. He's versatile. Listen, I don't think going forward he's going to offer much at all. I think there's that link with Moyes. Again, common to a lot of these transfer targets, which is why he may come in. I think the motivation's there. I don't think he's going to sign a new deal with Sheffield United. I think we could get him on a decent wage. Yeah. So I'd be more happy with Hendricks, but Lundstrom is a good utility player.
It surprised me, and I was looking at Lundstrom before. He's only 26.
Been around forever, mate. Been around forever.
I would have sworn Lord Lundstrom, mate. I thought he was about 30. I thought he was buried, honestly. But no, I've done some digging. Only Rice has managed more successful pressures than in this season. He's managed 172. He's got 7 goal contributions as well from midfield. So actually, you know, going forward, he can offer quite a bit. And he's quite a tidy player. He scored 2 goals against Burnley, didn't he? He pops in the right positions, and I actually like him. I'd definitely take him at West Ham. You know, if Wilder's saying off you go, because Wilder's very straight talking, isn't he? If he's not accepting a deal, he'll definitely be off. And I think he'd fit the bill perfectly. You know, 972 ball carries, that's 4th in the West Ham squad, so that'd be 4th if you put him in there. Yeah. 10 attacking for tackles, that's more than any other West Ham player. So it's clear to see that he works. You know, he works well in a high press, and he would be a Moyes player. I quite like him. He's a meathead as well, isn't he? So get Lord Lundstrom in.
Yeah, do you know what? Like you've kind of changed my opinion a little bit with some of those stats, because I didn't realise he was that good going forward. Yeah. Again, I know he obviously got the goals because he was in my fantasy team, but you got to remember Sheffield United play expansive football. They've got those 2 wing backs bombing on. It gives license for someone like Lundstrom to play up the pitch. But potentially in the number 10 role. Mentally, as a football fan as well, I can't imagine Lundstrom playing a number 10. But given his effect that he's had at Sheffield United, given his goal contributions, given the presses, he might actually fit that bill. And I think in games that, you know, potentially maybe we need to relieve pressure off the back 4, we're a bit under the cop. You know, if we can have a player like that who's pushing, you know, you've got some weak defences out there, mate. You know, I look at Manchester City, I know, you know, Laporte's come in and strengthen it up a little bit. But there are a lot of teams that are dodgy out there. And I think Lundstrom, if he can get a few goals and he can pressure the team, he's going to help our centre forward. Yeah,
he's imposing, mate, as well. He's just a physical presence that you do need in midfield. You know, he would help the likes of Haller. You know, if he advances more, I don't know if Moyes would see him as more of a player that sits deep, but maybe if you have Souček doing that, Rice just free roaming, and then you have Lundstrom further forward, you know, it could work well, and it gives you a different dynamic. Say Fornals isn't working because Fornals won't work every game. He won't be able to pull the strings. So then you bring Lundstrom on, or you start Lundstrom for, you know, a different game plan, and you could see that working. I do like him. So, and I like Lord Lundstrom though, and I like that nickname. So, if we can get him in, that'd be nice. A good shirt name, wouldn't it? But
yeah, you know. Sullivan will be happy if I put Lord Lundstrom on my back. Yeah, but yeah, you know, he's a good player. I mean, I can't talk too much about him because I don't watch him, you know, gaming. And I think as well with the second half of the season, we didn't see as much as him for Sheffield United. They brought Sander in, who's a phenomenal player in my opinion. I think
he's a brilliant player.
and we were linked with him. And if we'd got him, that would have been great. But obviously,
There's a
Suchek
few of
come
them, mate,
on.
in there. Yeah, but no, 81% passing accuracy as well. So he's clearly got a good, he's got good vision as well, which complements his other features going forward. So like we've said, if Moyes can get him and play him as kind of a more advanced midfielder who can stay forward and maybe, Lundstrom's not eye-catchingly quick, is he? He's not Brazilian. He's none of them. He's not an exciting name. But at the end of the day, you need players like Lundstrom who are physically imposing, who give you that impetus in midfield to go forward. And, I do like him. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think with these two players, Hendricks and Lundstrom, we're looking at plan Bs, aren't we? Let's be honest. We're looking at people that can switch up that starting 11. And I think West Ham, we're guilty, even with Pellegrini, it's not just a Moyes thing. We play the same way, same team. There's no competitiveness in positions. And I think when you look at their fullbacks as well, there's no one pushing Creswell really to improve. No. And only really when he had that contract, debate, was he going to sign? Was he going to get a new one? Did he start performing? So I think in terms of the overall squad, having better depth, having better competition is really good for us. And listen, I hope we don't get in a relegation battle next season. I really don't. But if we have players like this, who've played in teams that don't have a lot of possession in some cases, they will do a good job for us.
Now, I'm not forgetting, mate, he's been one of Sheffield United's best players this season. He's been the reason why they've been successful. And competition, I'll always bang on about this, but competition is healthy, and you need competition to keep players happy and to keep players at the top of the game. Because if you've not, the likes of Cresswell will underperform and they'll just take their position in the team for granted. So,
yeah, no, 100%, mate. Like, I wouldn't mind seeing them in on a free if it was a decent wage. When we talk about this as well, Carlos Sanchez, 80 grand a week, Jack Wilshere, 100 grand a week. You could potentially get both of them in for less than that. So, and I can think of worse players to have in a West Ham side. So for me, if we can do it, 100%.
Green light, yeah.
Yeah. Now we've got our favourite player, Easy from QPR. He is still. Good job. I've done a nice little analysis as a view on him. He's still our transfer target, which is good news in my opinion. I think we could wax lyrical about this guy all day. As a ball carrier, strong. I think he would offer a lot in the press. Going forward, he offers assists, goals, both can play on the left and the right. I just think almost a complete player, and I think really good for West Ham. My biggest concern would be two things. The transfer fee for 20 million, I think that would be steep the way West Ham are looking. Secondly, we've touched on it. Lanzini, Anderson, Fornals in that number 10. Easy would have to come in for me as a number 10. You'd have to give him license to almost do what he wants.
Completely, yeah.
So would we go for him? I know he's a target, but could you see him in a West Ham shirt?
I could. It'd be my absolute priority, mate, this summer. Absolute priority. Above anyone else, head and shoulders. We'd get him and then we get a striker and then we're done with the attack. But I won't deviate. Let's talk about him. Because the thing is, I don't know if he'd unsettle, but I don't know where he'd implement him in terms of Fornals' best position is behind the striker like he's. But he's not, he doesn't hug the touchline. He's not like, if you see him, his highlight reel, he's like a left number 10. He's like a wide number 10 in the fact that he'll cut inside, but he's not a complete winger. So, and against physical, fullbacks, would that maybe throw him off? I'm not sure. But no, he's an absolute star, mate. I've loved watching him this season. He's flourished in a pretty poor team, if you like, and I just think he'd get the best of players around him as well. And if you think the likes of Ease and maybe Anderson in there as well, we defo compliment him and Haller as well. I just think, like you said, he offers so much on and off the ball, and I don't know. I think £20 million, it's a lot, but Aaron Ramsdale's going to Sheffield United for £18 million. So I think in this market, mate, I think it's a no-brainer. But for our funds, maybe we'd look for a little less. So
I just think he's top draw. Like, when this whole debate was going on, Ben Rama or Easy, I actually was going, well, Ben Rama must be the better player. I've heard a lot about him. But you sit down and watch this bloke. If anyone's watching this now and hasn't seen him, honestly, just type YouTube, have a look at his highlights, because he just drifts in from the left. He carries the ball, and I can see a player in there that could fit in with our system as well. Not just technically very, very good, but actually in terms of work rate, in terms of press, would be really, really important, and I think he offers that level of creativity and that mixture of creativity and work rate that's only going to benefit someone like an Haller. You know, we're talking about how can we get the best out of Sebastian Haller. Well, Haller's done well with players around him, you know, feeding the ball to him. Easy would do that 100%. You know, I've got no doubts that he will come up to the Premier League, and I hope it's a West Ham and not Palace, and adapt very, very quickly. And
You'll flourish, mate.
Completely. You know, just a real solid player, and I think as well, like I haven't even touched on it. You know, Souček and Rice, in particular against Manchester United, sat very deep, very disciplined, and very good at the sort of protecting that back four. Now, if Easy's got them two behind him, giving him the license to move forward, you know, he could bring in like an Anderson on the left, you know, a Bowen on the right. That's what people need to remember. He will be that linking star between all of our attacking talent.
It's absolutely, mate. I couldn't have said it better. The fact is, it's the fear factor, mate. That's what you're looking at a player like him. He reminds me of like a modern day JJ Kocher. Teams now, if you have a player that, you know, is willing and confident to run with a ball straight directly at you, they don't like it. You know, like Antonio, that's what he can offer. And we don't have too much of that. Anderson normally, you know, he goes sideways or he goes backwards. But that's what frustrates me with Anderson. He's got the ability to take players on and dazzle them and cut inside and do that. And Lanzini used to be like that as well, but he's regressed since his injury. Fornals, he's not that type of player. You know, he's not going to take you on and dazzle you and run 50 yards and score. This guy is. Honestly, he'll create nothing out of tight situations and he'll come up with a game-winning moment. I don't know about the valuation. £20 million is steep, but at the end of the day, I'd throw anything at QPR to get him. I'd involve Hugo, I'd involve Hendricks because he's top draw, and in a few years he'll be a massive player.
Yeah, that was touted, wasn't it? You know, sending Fredericks and Hugo the other way. I just would do that. I really, really would. You know, you touched on it a little bit with a player like Lanzini. You know, I did a video. I'm going to get absolute pelters when this comes out to say that Lanzini may be able to still, you know, support West Ham in an attacking sense. But even when I sat there and looked at him, you know, defensively he's not going to offer it. There is a clear lack of strength and pace that you need really in a modern day number 10. You know, an example, and albeit not on the same level, I'm not saying that at all. Someone like Thomas Muller, we watched last night. Yeah. Thomas Muller isn't really a number 10, isn't really a number 9, plays between the two, is physically very good, carries the ball well, you know, he's got creativity in his game. You know, the modern day number 10 has to have a lot of attributes to him, you know, and even Easy from set pieces is good. You know, West Ham need that. We need that player. And, you know, I've said in this video, defensive reinforcements are a priority, 100%. But when you look at a player like this that comes up at time, QPR we've finished 13th in the Championship. West Ham are a big club, a London club that he's in London now. I'd be throwing the checkbook at him. I really would. Whatever West Ham have, you know, even if you had to get rid of, and I do think Anderson could do all right next season, depending on a few factors. But if we sold him, you know, for 20 mil and brought Izzy in, I wouldn't be disappointed, put it that way.
Yeah, exactly. But if you told me, I don't know about you, but if you said to me, who would you rather have, Anderson or Easy? I'd rather have Easy any day of the week. I just think we've always lacked, say from a corner, you know, we've always hit the first man, haven't we? You know, it's always been the same. It's been boring. He's got the ability to get it over the first man. You know, he can take a free kick. He can, you know, that goal he scored against Stoke away. Have you seen it? He dazzled them all. He got the ball on the halfway line. Yeah. He beat two players. The runners in Hugo and someone else made this key to, you know, create space, but he did it himself. He beat two players. He nutmegged one of them, and then he just rolled it past the keeper like he didn't do anything, like it was in a training session. And I think he just could be. I think West Ham fans have warmed to him really quickly. He's like a kind of Di Canio. He's got that flair and excitement about him. You don't know what he's going to do. He's unpredictable, and that's what we need. And he'd be my absolute priority this summer, mate. I'd throw everything at him to get him. I really would.
Yeah, no, me and you are in total agreement. I mean, we're becoming fanboys of this bloke, but you know, if he ever does grace the Premier League, or you know, in a West Ham shirt or else, you know, I think we'll both be fans of him. What a player, you know, English as well. I mean, if he can break that into that England setup, which I think he will. I just think he will. Is, you know, we've seen it in previous years. You know, look at people like James Maddison. You know, they say, can he make that step up? And it's all about the fit in the team. Okay, all right, fair enough. For Leicester, you know, he's given a lot of attacking license. You know, he's got people like Ndidi behind him. He can do that. He's got a real mobile midfield with Chowdhury as well. So he has that. But in a West Ham side, it's the same thing. You know, we want him to press. We want him to be defensive as well. But we want to give him the license to carry the ball and give him that free roll. Listen.
Oh yeah, he has to stay forward. Sorry, mate, but if a key factor in this as well, if you want to keep Grady Diangana happy, he's mates with ease. Get them both in the same team. That honestly, it ties together, and it'll keep Diangana happy as well. And imagine them two in the same team, the damage they do. Young talent with Bowen on the right, and then Haller or Antonio up front. You know, So it's little things like that that'll definitely help the morale of the squad as well as to improve the team in a whole, which you've got to look at. You know, you've got to look at players that, you know, will get on with other players. And he's and Diangana have known each other since they were kids. So you've got to look at that as well.
And I think as well, like you literally just touched on now, but Diangana, easy, Bowen, maybe Antonio, all strong, all physical, all quick. Now, if West Ham have to play on the counter, and listen, we will have to play on the counter next season, you know.
100%.
West Ham, you know, when we play against Wolves and Tottenham, and listen, you can't take too much from that because I know we changed our style a little bit in the following games after Chelsea, but it was very much counter-attacking football. And if we can break at pace, you know, and really cause teams trouble, I think, you know, we could have a half-decent season. Now, like I say, we have to address the fullbacks. We really, really do, because without that, I don't think you see ease in his full ability, and Diangana to an extent. You know, the defense is a priority, but 100%, mate. If we could get him in, I think that'd be a good window.
And the thing is, mate, when you look at games this season, you know, you look back at the likes of Sheffield United away. There was something there for the taking. I know we got our goal ruled out in the last minute, but they were looking for the second. They brought the likes of Mousse on and wanted to kill the game off. But there was potential there for us to counter. You know, and Lanzini, I think one of their players slipped and Lanzini was through, and he could have played to Haller, but he decided to hang on and shoot instead. If you have decisive players, mate, and players that like Diangana and Easy that are gonna, you know, beat a player, you know, like you've seen Diangana do this season, neg him and then run forward with the ball, or get little out of tight situations, or just have more drive going forward. We've lacked that this season. You know, we thought Anderson was that player where he could take, you know, 5 players on and get, you know, on the counter attack or something, or be decisive. Ease and Diangana are both that. So you've got to look at that and think, you know, because we won't have much of the ball. You know, we're not a Man City. So if we go to the likes of Sheffield United away next season, we want to get something. You've got players there that are going to get you something.
Yeah, and listen, you know, I know we always look like we're playing a 4-3-3, but for me, in my head, it's more of a 4-2-3-1. And with those three, where you've got like a Bowen, potentially Diangana next season, and you've got Easy, like you're looking at players that can interchange, can move between, you know, different wings. It suits Easy as well if he's given that freedom. I mean, I just think it's perfect from an attacking standpoint. We wax way too much lyrical about this bloke, but if anyone's listening, trust me, just watch him, and then you'll see what we're saying.
Honestly, yeah, I'm getting tears in my eyes, mate, thinking about him. No.
When we don't sign him, and then we've literally missed out by 5 million.
Yeah, but honestly, no, if we don't, I think it'd be one of the biggest mistakes we've made for a long time if we don't sign him. A long time.
Well, you know, X was a massive fan of James Maddison. Like, I remember listening to him, he was going, trust me, this kid's
raving about him. Yeah.
And I was like,
we didn't sign him.
I don't really watch the Championship, but yeah, this bloke, for me, 100%. So
Ease will be the same, mate. Ease will follow the same path as Maddison. If we don't sign him, he'll go to the likes of Palace or Leicester and excel. And then he'll probably be an England international. And
we've got to be careful. You know, this transfer window is a bit of a chess match where, you know, you've got Crystal Palace could sell Zaha. Don't know how much he'll go for. West Ham could sell Rice. Don't know how much he'll go for. Whoever sells who first could be the first to move and pay that wage. Now,
exactly.
Listen, I want to get this clear now. I don't think we should sell Declan Rice in this window for anything at all.
No.
But if we do, we're going to have to move quickly on a lot of these targets, because, you know, there are clubs out there sniffing for them. You know, there's a reason why people are interested in Ease, because he is that good.
Exactly, and teams around us are looking to improve, aren't they? You know, and the likes of Palace are after Ismail Assar on loan if Zaha goes, and he's a straight, you know, decent replacement. So you've got to look at other clubs, be aware, and then be proactive ourselves. Because if it gets the last few weeks of the window, we haven't got anyone in.
I'll probably
Alarm
just try,
bells.
mate, to be honest. He's good
No,
like that
but
now, to be fair. He's good like that, you know. But
alarm bells would be ringing, mate, and we'll be desperate, and we'll probably end up signing Phil Jones and Danny Rose on loan. So
yeah, let's not even go there. So I was kind of half looking forward to the season. Obviously, it's going to be great when Premier League football comes back, and it's only been a month really since we've stopped, but
yeah.
it's going to be a long one, you know. And I don't know if you're waiting for the transfer section on strikers, we don't actually have any transfer targets on the strike because apparently we can't afford Ollie Watkins.
Don't get me started on that. Let's Barini though. We're willing to give.
We are indeed.
Well, are we? Is it just a typical agent ploy to get him to sign a new deal at his club? But
I don't even think Barini fits, mate. I've got to be honest at all.
No.
Really not. You know, I don't think he's impressed really anywhere that he's played. I know that sounds terrible, but you've got to remember, the only place he's impressed is Swansea, right? So that's what we know. You know, he was taken on loan from Chelsea, so he did well in the Championship. He's done well.
He played at Swansea, didn't he? I completely forgot about that.
Yeah, then obviously Rodgers knows him, and you know we know Rodgers likes his certain players within his certain system, so he's obviously brought him in at Liverpool. Couldn't get a game there, so went to Sunderland. So you know, a player that had potential.
He scored some bangers as well for Sunderland, you know, but his record for Sunderland, right? 14 goals in 82 games.
Yeah.
3 in 16 this season in Serie A, and he's 29.
Listen, mate, he's so off with him. I think he's. Where did he play in Serie A?
Oh.
Done you there. He definitely played at AC Milan at one point, to be fair.
You've done me there. Let me check. Barini. Barini. That's not Barini. Fabio. He did play at AC Milan. You know what? He might still be there. No, Hellas Verona he plays for now. So, you know, and they're really struggling. So I know it's difficult to say, you know, he should be doing well in a struggling team and all that. And it's not that bad of a record. But the only positive for me is that he's versatile. That he can play on the left wing as well if you're looking to change it up. But I can't understand for the life of me why we've sold Albion Ajeti, a decent, promising young striker that we've always cried out for so many years. And we've lost £5 million on him. He's gone to Celtic. And Celtic, by the way, have one of the best scouting networks in the world.
But they've got not a huge transfer outlay, so they have to look at some decent young talent.
Yeah, but they're like, you know, they signed Edouard, they've signed Dembele, and Ajeti must have something about him. And for me, for fans to write him off after, you know, one game against, Oxford away is criminal, mate. You can't do that. You need to give players a run of games. But he's another one that's bite the dust, and we have to move on. But we need to get at least 2 more strikers in for me.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit about Ajeti because he kind of splits opinion. I think a lot of people don't think he's good enough for West Ham, and some other people don't think he's been given a chance. I can only speak from when I wrote my blog post when we signed him. I did a bit of analysis on him.
Yeah.
A decent finisher, you know. I mean, he's played at Basel. I know people don't say it's a high level, but Basel play in the Champions League, you know, and even in the Europa League this season, they got to the quarterfinal stage.
Exactly.
So they're no slouches, you know. His game is really in and around that box. Now, I would have thought that's why Pellegrini brought him in. Pellegrini obviously had a lot of emphasis on the attacking players to give the support to people like Haller. So that's why he's brought. So I can see the mould. I don't think he fitted in with a David Moyes system, I've got to be honest. Equally, I find it absolutely bewildering why Moyes has Zander Silva and Ajeti on the bench and fails to use them even in the last 20 minutes when we're losing the game. Burnley was the perfect example. You know, he brought him on for 10 minutes. He can't affect the game then. I just find it odd, mate. I really do.
To be fair, mate, you remember Everton at home 1-1?
Yeah.
Ajeti came on then. He looked lively. You know, he looked decent. Like you said for Basel, you know, he was a good finisher. You know, variability of goals that he scored. He likes to feel the defender's body. That was from his interview, which was a bit sketchy, but
yeah, I'd like to say, did you say that?
Yeah. No, it's a bit weird, wasn't it? But I don't know. I didn't see the vendetta against him. Maybe, you know, if 2 managers don't rate him, maybe that goes to say something. Maybe Pellegrini thought he's going to be better than he actually is, but I'm not sure you can judge him off a training session either. I don't really, you know, see that until you give him a few games. You know, with off the bench or start him or with Haller. I don't think we gave him a fair chance. And maybe he wasn't good enough for West Ham, but how can you, for me, you can't give that. I don't know, mate. You can't give that like a clear argument until you've seen him play 5 or 6 games in the West Ham shirt.
Yeah, I completely agree, mate. He has to have. I felt that he needed more time. You know, we spent I wouldn't say a massive amount of money, but a decent amount of money for West Ham.
Yep.
I would have loaned him out, mate. Like, I just look at him and I think for Celtic as a loan would have been a perfect move for him, because he's going to score in that league. You know, I think he's got the finishing quality, which is why I think he would have. I don't think he's the most mobile. I agree with you completely. When he come against Everton, he was lively and he tried. I don't think that's his game. I just find it, even from a resale point of view, let's just say we sent him on loan to Celtic and, you know, we loaned him out. You know, if he scored 20, 25 goals up there for whatever reason, you sell him for 15, 20 mil. So this is why I really question the whole strategy. I personally would have liked
you could bring him back and give him a go. You know what I mean?
If he scores 20 to 25, you just would, wouldn't you? You really would. So
that's the thing that baffles me, mate. Celtic do not sign bad players. Edouard, Dembele, you know, Elyounoussi was a good signing for them as well. You know, Frimpong as well. He's a hell of a player. They sign good players, and for me, I don't know. It baffles me unless you're confident that Zander Silva will be given a go and will set the world alight. Then fair enough. But until you have adequate backup in that position, you cannot sell him until you just can't sell him, mate. Like, I just don't get it, because now we're going to be haggling for a striker and we're going to be short of options. And Haller's just going to be like, well, what the hell am I doing here again with no one in around me, not suiting my system? He's going to be frustrated again. It just bewilders me, mate. But if we have a backup plan and we have 5 strikers on the shortlist and 1 of them or 2 of them are close to joining, fair enough. But we don't have anyone on the shortlist. And I question now if Zander Silva will make it. You know, he's 23, you know.
Yeah, you know, and even he hasn't really been given a chance, and he scored a fair amount of goals in 23. So
yeah,
it's odd, mate. It's a really odd decision from Moyes not to bring in the sort of striker reinforcements. Really strange. Yeah, I just find it bizarre, you know. And I always point back to this: when we sold last season, Arnautovic, Hernandez, Perez, and Carroll left on a free. I just think that was criminal. I really do. I understand that the board are a little bit skint. They wanted to recoup some of the wages, but to not bring in anybody on any kind of, you know, even if it was a low wage, you know, and this is the thing, you know, we speak about it, the lack of a scouting system. You know, when you look at people like Celtic, Brentford, you know, Nice, like, they understand the players that they can bring into the side, and it's not a lot of money, you know. And I said it in the earlier. Alfonso Davies, you know, he wasn't a prime left back, you know, that Bayern spent a load of money on. They brought him in from the MLS. So you telling me that West Ham don't have the same, as a Premier League club, don't have the same, you know, ability to do that? And even from a footballing side, mate, you should have at least 4 strikers a season, irrespective of quality, that you're willing to play and rotate.
Of course you should, mate. Of course you should. And Zander Silva's another one who hasn't been given a fair chance. You know, he started against Birmingham in the FA Cup, didn't he? A few seasons ago, and he looked lively, mate. And then he had that he had something medically wrong, didn't he? He had a bad something like that kept him out for a long time. And he's only just come back. But no, you just question the scouting system at West Ham, and you know, obviously Zander looks promising, and everyone's calling for him to be in the, you know, the in and around the first team, which he might have to be now, to be fair. But yeah, I just don't understand it, mate. It doesn't make sense until you have 4 free strikers, different variability, like we had with Hernandez, Perez, Carroll, offer something different. Why would you then bump them off? And then in a year's time, fast forward, you're left with Sebastian Haller, who's a good player, and Mikel Antonio, who isn't a natural striker. That's all you've got left. And if Haller gets injured or Antonio gets injured, because Antonio's not the most reliable, is he, with injury records? Yeah. And then you've just got Haller. What if Haller gets an injury? What are you going to do then? I just don't understand.
Despair, mate. Probably play a false 9 with Lord Lundstrom there, but listen, I got no idea, mate. Really, it is.
Lord Lundstrom, to be fair, that could be the plan, mate. It could be the plan. You get him in as a third striker, banging headers and stuff.
It's got David Moyes written all over it, that type of system. But the most disappointing thing for me, was the Ollie Watkins, deal. I think X touched on it where he said the board weren't willing to pay. He was out of their price range. I'm sorry, but if you're a Premier League club, we moved a couple of seasons ago, promised next level football. If you can't compete with Aston Villa for a Championship striker, that is alarm bells all over the place.
18 million quid, mate. 18 million quid.
It's a joke.
We're haggling for that now. Next level football, we'll be in the Champions League in 5 years. No.
What plan?
And you can't compete with Aston Villa. Aston Villa are a big club, mate. There's no doubt, and they have money to spend because they've got good owners who want to invest in a club. Ironically, But yeah, I just don't understand. And Ollie Watkins would be a perfect addition. He's young. He'd probably be an upgrade on a Yeti, to an extent. So I just don't understand. But then again, another player who cropped to mind is Josh Madger. Why would you not go for someone like him?
Yeah,
David Moyes knows him well. Yeah. He wouldn't be on high wages. He'd be available for about £10 million or something. So why would you not go after him? But no, Ollie Watkins, it's absolutely criminal, mate. And 18 million quid. We got 130 million quid for finishing in our position last season.
Yeah, around that. Yeah.
Nothing else to say, mate.
Yeah, no, it's really, really disappointing. I just hope there's a bit more activity in the next 2 or 3 weeks. I think obviously X has said that this is the time in pre-season. Obviously the players are back. It will start to move. We'll see some activity. We've just really got to be proactive in this market. They live, unfortunately, this board in a bit of a archaic 1990s mode where they did at Birmingham, where they live in terms of those dealings and how they constructed deals. We're in a modern day era where scouting, directors of football are crucial to football clubs. Managers can't be responsible for it all, and the fact we rely so heavily on scouts as well. Even with the Ben Rama deal, I think it's Will Salthouse is the agent for them. West Ham deal regularly with him. Now I like Ben Rama, right, but he's not the right player for West Ham. And if we spend all our transfer fee on him, and you just take out every single transfer target we've mentioned, it's bonkers, and it's completely against what the manager wants. And we've had that before. Pellegrini's wanted certain players. The board has said, no, this is all I can give you. Ajetti's the example. I think Ajetti had promised, don't get me wrong. But yeah. I just don't believe that would have been his second choice behind Allaire. I think there would have been other choices that he couldn't afford.
No, completely, yeah. Yeti would have been, 4th, 5th, 6th on the list, I'm sure. Exactly, mate. Managers are thrown under the bus, and Moyes inevitably will be another one. They did it with Bilic. I think Bilic identified William Carvalho and Leander Dendoncker to come in midfield. Yeah. He didn't get either of them. Payet wanted to leave. That was the end of him. I just think if we back then, where would we be? But that's another story. But yeah, they did it with Pellegrini to an extent. They didn't get his. You do question, did they get his main targets? And probably not. And then, you're looking at Moyes. How much will they spend this summer? And what can Moyes do with limited resources? No manager can do a lot. So that's where it stems from. Every time it stems from the board, it stems from the top.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, mate. So we've covered every transfer rumour target that's been mentioned. It's been a lovely video, mate. Albeit slightly negative, but
yeah, we'll offer our opinions, and be true, and that's the way we see it, isn't it? So
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. Thanks for coming on again. Absolute legend.
No problem. It's a pleasure, mate. Thank you again for having me.
Of course, we'll get you back on. This won't be the last of me and Dan, certainly. Loads of content coming up over the season.
Yeah.
Regular, consistent, interviews, hopefully with ex-players, West Ham fans, people like Dan, who offer really, solid opinions on players in our West Ham play. So keep an eye out for that. Like the video, subscribe, all that stuff. Obviously, until next time, take care.